You don't say, Kubo. You don't say. No, seriously, he doesn't say. Okay, so, I know right now in the community a lot of people are freaking out over the reveal of Zangetsu's true form with the two swords, but with the one sword that can become two swords and the scabbard, and it's really confusing, and, yeah, I plan on talking about that at some point, but I've been rereading Bleach, like early Bleach, Substitute arc up to the Soul Society arc lately, and I just really want to talk about Orihime's ability. Now that might seem weird to you, because way back when I reviewed Bleach, Orihime was not like one of my favorite characters. I mean, and I'm still Ichirukia for the win. That's why we have Ichigo hanging out with Orihime here, with Rukia way in the background, like just observing them, okay? So, yeah, I'm still Ichirukia 100%, but like, Orihime's Shunshun Rika, there are so many questions with that ability, and there still are so many questions with that ability all the way up to the end of the story. So, yeah, Ichigo has two Zanpakuto toes, but maybe there could be one, but maybe he could go back to two. I don't really care about that right now. I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the ability to summon 6 sentient fairies that are maybe possibly fragments of her personality that also seem to have the ability to regress and repel and reject time and reality itself. Can we talk about that? Also, a fan of mine years and years ago gave me these 2 hairpins, and I never really had an opportunity to talk about Orihime because I never really cared much about Orihime, but we're here today, so we have the hairpins. Now, first, before we get into this, I gotta give the obligatory, if this is revealed or talked about in the light novels, let me know, because I haven't read all of the light novels. So, it might have already been talked about in one of those, like, oh my god, Tekking, clearly Orihime's power is a fragment of the Soul King itself. It was revealed in light novel Blibbity Blue. Okay, so let me know about that. And even in the story, what gets confusing, and it's the same problem with Chad, kind of, is that, I believe when Ichigo was fighting Aizen, right, and he was going on one of his world-famous Aizen monologues, he mentions at one point that it was because of the Hogyoku's influence, because remember, the Hogyoku was inside of Rukia during the Substitute arc, but we don't find that out until later. Because of the Hogyoku's influence, that was what awoke Chad's and Orihime's respective abilities, okay? So Chad's right arm and then Orihime's hairpins becoming the Shunshun Rika, okay? And then later, though, it was revealed in the Fullbring arc that Chad's ability is, in fact, a Fullbring. Like, it's classified as something, and there's other characters that have abilities that are similar to Chad's. Now, sure, fine. You want to say Chad's ability is a Fullbring. I think it's a little bit different from that, so maybe you could argue it's something else altogether, but it's like, okay, we've seen other Fullbrings, like Jackie's Dirty Boots, that are like a clad-type Fullbring, and Chad is able to summon, like, his arm, like armor on his arm, right? It's through his skin that he has pride in, right? It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But Orihime's power, the Shunshun Rika, there's no other Fullbringer that has an ability even close to that, okay? She summons 6 fairies that each have their own individual personality, their sentience, they're autonomous, they know about each other, they each have their individual names and designs. By the way, Kubo with the designs of the Shunshun Rika, the 6 fairies, oh my god, that's pretty cool, right? They each have like a little aesthetic, and we'll get into the individual members in a second here, but just, you could really tell he went kind of like, he didn't have to do that, right? He could have just given them like generic designs. It maybe actually implies that maybe he wanted to do more with the Shunshun Rika throughout the story, considering he gave them those unique designs, and he just never did, so they didn't really go anywhere, unfortunately. And that's the tragic thing with Orihime's ability. I mean, look at this. You know, like, look at that. Orihime, this is probably the most badass she's ever been in the entire story. This is probably the most badass she's been in the entire story, except from that one time that she went up against Yami, after Chad got taken out by Yami. I think that chapter was Conquistadors, the Hounded Priestess. And I'm like, oh man, that's another thing too. Kubo knew how to title his chapters, okay? Conquistadors, Hounded Priestess. And then Orihime's there like, I'll protect you, Chad. I can't always rely on Ichigo to arrive to save me. I've got this, right? And, you know, she didn't really have this, but, you know, she tried, and that's all that matters. So probably a lot of people tend to classify Orihime's ability as a Fullbring, and that's fine. It's just that I can't, because I don't think it is, because it's completely different from everything else that we've seen in a Fullbring. Honestly, the ability that it comes closest to is a Zanpakuto, because a Zanpakuto is what we find out in the final arc. Like, the Zanpakuto spirit is not like a different spirit. Like, there's the spirit of the sword and then your spirit, and they're just working together as like partners. No, we find out the blade is you, okay? So literally it is just a fragment of your soul that splits off and takes a different appearance. It might resemble like a personality trait, maybe either conscious or subconscious, something like that, but it is you. It is literally part of your soul, okay? And that really seems what the Shun Shun Rika are, because looking at all 6 of them, you can honestly see fragments of Orihime's personality divided into the 6 fairies. So first we have Shuno, and each member of the 6 flowers is appropriately named after a plant. So Shuno is named after cherry blossoms, okay? Shuno seems like the de facto leader of the group and is the first member of the Shun Shun Rika to actually greet Orihime and explain the powers to her. That's another thing too. Like, the ability is like, even Zanpakuto spirits aren't usually that candid with that. I mean, sometimes they are, and they'll help out the Shinigami, like, this is my ability, and this is how you use it, like, in the heat of battle. But usually, like, a lot of times, it's like, we want you to figure this out for yourself, or, you know, to work with us in order to discover your Shikai and your Bankai. Shuno literally just pops out of Orihime's hairpins and is just like, hey, how you doing, Orihime? Okay, this is how you use your powers. Pay close attention. There's going to be a quiz after. You gotta remember some words in order to make this work. Okay, so that's Shuno. Seems like the leader, okay? And you could see Shuno representing Orihime's, like, leadership abilities, okay? Like a fragment of her personality that's, like, tries to take charge and tries to be, like, the leader in a situation. Or the more tactical side of her personality is represented inside Shuno. And this isn't, like, necessarily personalities that are just appropriate to Orihime. This could be to, like, any of us. Like, we all have a fragment of ourselves. Even if we're not very confident or we don't have really good skills at, like, public speech, we still have a part of our personality that is maybe the confident part, okay? Just some have it more than others, for example, okay? So then we have Shuno's partner, Ayame. Together, they work together to create the Soten Kishun, the healing ability that Aizen was so obsessed with. You know, the ability to literally reject time and space, except if she's not feeling like she can reject time and space. We'll get into the individual abilities after we go through the fairies, okay? So Ayame means iris in Japanese, and I really like her design because her wings, because all the members of the Shun Shun Rika have wings. They, like, fly around like birds, or fairies, I guess, and their wings fold in different places. So some are on their back and some are in other places. Ayame's are on the top of her head, so it kind of resembles like a flower blooming, right? Like a blossom off the top of her head. So she doesn't speak very often, and she's very shy, she's very meek, and that represents the part of Orihime's personality that's very meek and shy, and also maybe possibly overshadowed by, like, stronger characters in the story. Like, maybe she feels like she doesn't hold a candle to, like, Chad or Ichigo or Rukia or Renji at times, and so she feels more like a wallflower. Also apropos, considering Shun Shun Rika are named after flowers, right? And so that represents that fragment of her personality. I will say this, like, each member, if you look at them in this context, yeah, you can sync them up rather well with Orihime's personality traits throughout the story, okay? And so, yeah, that's Shuno and Ayame that make the Soten Kishun. So then we have Hinagiku, Bygone, and Lily, the 3 fairies that create the Santen Keshun, the main ability that Orihime usually uses, the triangle shield that she blocks attacks with, that sometimes works and most of the time doesn't, but man, she tries, you know? So then we have Hinagiku, and I have the names here. Hinagiku means daisy in Japanese. Bygone means ume in Japanese. And then we have Lily, who just is a lily, okay? And once again, their designs are very, very interesting, okay? So Shuno and Ayame had more like traditional Japanese designs. Like Ayame had like the kimono, Shuno had like the top knot. So Hinagiku has like this weird like superhero aesthetic. He's got like a goggle that looks like you can maybe fire a laser from it. He's got this weird horn coming out of his head, and he's got like pointed ears like an elf. Then we have Bygone, who's like this big tough armor dude with like a face guard that has like a flower design on it. Like I said, Kubo really went crazy with the designs. And then we have Lily, who has like this futuristic aesthetic going on. She's got like goggles, like a visor, and this weird hairstyle, and she wears like a one-piece swimsuit, okay? But it has like she has a tattoo, and it's like some cool like futuristic designs there. And then so they create, yeah, the barrier, the defense barrier. I like to think of Hinagiku as like the intelligent aspect of Orihime, okay? Her knowledge, you know, kind of a nerd, because Orihime, you know, she ranks very high in terms of the testing. I remember during the first arc, the substitute arc, there was like that student test, like the end of the year finals, and Uryu was at the top at #1. Some random random person was at number 2, and then Orihime ranked number 3 in the entire class, okay? Ichigo ranked pretty high as well as Chad did, but it literally went like Uryu, and then some random person, and then Orihime, okay? So Orihime is very intelligent, she has book smarts, and I like to think that Hinagiku represents that aspect of her. I don't know, he just looks nerdy to me. And then we have Lily, who represents the bubbliness and the outgoing nature, the extroverted nature that Orihime exhibits. So kind of like the exact opposite of Ayame, because Orihime is that very bubbly kind of personality. Be like, hey everybody, how are you doing? Here, have some of my food. It's a giant piece of bread with just some red bean paste that we could throw on there. Yeah, let's have a picnic. Come on, everybody. So that's represented in Lily. And then we have Bygone, who's just this big dude. And I feel like that's just the representation of Orihime's gluttony, because she eats a lot. You know, it's a common shonen trope. You know, usually it's reserved for the main character, like, you know, Luffy or Goku, but in Bleach, it's just embodied in Orihime, who just eats a lot of food, right? That's really funny. That's a really great, you know, psychological analysis of these fairies. You know, I think Lily really represents the extroverted nature of Orihime, whereas Ayame represents the introvert. And then Bygone just represents, give me food! You know, like, that's basically Bygone. Alright? And then finally, we have Tsubaki, who represents, she very rarely uses this ability, Koten Zashun, the ability to actually harm or injure someone or an opponent. And so, for that reason, Orihime doesn't like to harm others very often. So, this ability, not only does she not use it very often, but because her personality kind of goes against that, the ability is not very strong in that right. And so, the ability to heal others is easily her strongest, because that's what Orihime really, she wants to heal, and she wants to repair, and she wants to make everybody, like, better, okay? And then her defensive capabilities are second, and then her offensive capabilities are way at the bottom, okay? Tsubaki stands for Camellia. Camellia? Is that how you pronounce that? Camilla? Camilla? Now I'm just, wait, Camilla? No, I'm thinking of the enemy. I'm thinking of the vampire lady from Castlevania. That's Carmilla. That's somebody else. Okay, but Camellia, whatever. It's a flower, I'm assuming. I'll throw a picture up of what it is. But anyway, Tsubaki is he's like the badass, right? He's got the scar. He's got the cool. Like, he's like a ninja, basically. He's just like, hey, how you doing, Orihime? I'm Tsubaki. Fire me straight and true, and I'll slice the enemy in half. Blood will go everywhere, and the glorious drums of war will sound in the background, carrying on my legacy forevermore. And he's just like the size of, like, I don't know, an eraser. He's just like, okay. So anyway, yeah, that's Tsubaki. Now, Tsubaki you got to feel for, because Tsubaki's whole thing is, like, you know, battle, and represents Orihime's, you know, combative, or the part of her personality that does actually want to get involved in fights. Now, typically, though, this only comes up a very few amount of times in the story when, you know, an enemy will actually harm one of her friends, like Numb Chandelier, the Hollow, during the Substitute arc. Those pods to their heads actually controlling their abilities and manipulating them like zombies, and, like, blood was, like, gushing down, and their bodies were going all veiny, like they were gonna die, right? And so Orihime, that's the badass moment right there, where Orihime's like, I will not allow anybody to harm my friends, we will fight, okay? So she doesn't like that. She doesn't like to fight. She doesn't like the sight of blood and gore and all that kind of stuff, but she does have it in her when her friends are in danger, okay? And we saw that again when Chad got one shot by Yami during the beginning of the Arrancar arc, okay? And she stood against him, okay? Now, those two different scenes had very different outcomes, right? Where we had Tsubaki slicing Numb Chandelier in half. The only time, and correct me if I'm wrong, it might have been in like a filler arc or something, but the only time, at least in the canon of the manga, where Tsubaki actually dealt damage, not even a kill. I mean, he did kill Numb Chandelier, but I'm not even going that far. The only time that Tsubaki dealt, like, any damage to any character, period, was during that first fight against Numb Chandelier, okay? Well, actually, no. I guess that's not true, because during the final arc, at the beginning of the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, when Ichigo, Uryu, Chad, and Orihime are all there fighting against random hollows. Okay, so I guess it's implied that she's used Tsubaki to kill some random hollows, but beyond random hollows, you know, Tsubaki has not damaged any Shinigami, or any Arrancar, or any other character that has, like, actual status, okay? And that makes sense, given Orihime's personality, okay? But that's the fighting spirit that dwells within her is represented in Tsubaki. Okay, there we go. All right, so those are the 6 powers. I'm not really sure if Kubo intended them to, like, represent personality traits of Orihime, if that's what he was going for, but it seemed to sync up rather well with me, so that's what I went with, okay? Also implying exactly where did they come from? Well, when they first appeared, Orihime asks that very logical question, where did you come from? And they give her a very indirect answer, and she passes out right after that fight with Numb Chandelier, so they don't really have time to, like, expand on that, even though they totally do. We'll get to that in a moment. So I think Tsubaki's like, don't worry about where we came from. All that matters is you know how to wield us. But there was one line that Shuno spoke to Orihime in that fight where Shuno was like, oh, Orihime, you're the only one that can see us. And Orihime's like, I'm the only one? And Shuno's like, well, I mean, maybe, like, Ichigo Kurosaki could see us because it's because of him that we got brought into existence, but she doesn't expand upon that anymore because they have to get into a fight, okay? So that's an interesting implication because that implies that the ability, the Shunshin Rika, know where that they came from, know where they originated from, and I guess they imply that Orihime has to know that as well. So I guess you could say that their knowledge is only limited to Orihime's knowledge, right? So they're just maybe more logical about it because they're different fragments of her personality. So maybe Shuno, who's the more tactical thinker, would be able to realize right away, like level-headed, like, oh, it's probably because of Ichigo Kurosaki, because of all the weird stuff going on with him and his ability to become a Shinigami. Maybe that's the reason we were born, right? But that doesn't mean it's true. That just means, like, the ability has the assumption that they came about because of Ichigo Kurosaki. Now, did something happen involving Ichigo that led to the creation of the Shunshin Rika? After all, Ichigo has pretty much every fragment of every being in Bleach inside of him, right? You know, he's Hollow powers, Shinigami powers, Quincy powers, you know, all the other stuff he has. So the ability, I mean, the idea that he would bring about Orihime's ability isn't really that crazy, but it's stated later by Aizen it was actually because of the Hogyoku that was in Rukia that led to the creation of her abilities. I find that more believable than her having just a regular Fullbring, right? I like to have it like, okay, the Hogyoku has the ability to grant wishes and desires, and the ability of the Hogyoku, I don't want to say it's infinite, but from what we've seen with Aizen's power, it can get pretty high up there in terms of ability. So I'm going to assume at least, Orihime's Shunshin Rika could technically have insanely god-level proportioned powers. Like, maybe even on the level of Aizen. Yes, I went there. She has the ability to reject time and space. Okay, we're dealing with very metaphysical quantum crap here, all right? But it's a power that is entirely tethered 100% to her emotional state. And if she wavers for a moment, if she loses her composure, if she loses confidence even for a little bit, if she feels that her friends are going to die and there's nothing she can do about it, and even if she tries to help, they could still die, all of those factors play into her power not working correctly. It's possible that if Orihime learned, and Orihime is a very emotional character, which is sort of the balance out for this ability, but it makes me feel like if Orihime was able to think very clearly and level-headed and not get emotional in any particular instance, her ability might be insanely OP, right? Like, remember that time, like we learned during the Arrancar arc, that was the whole reason Aizen was interested in her Soten Kishun ability, the rejection ability with Shuno and Ayame, in order to heal, because she healed Grimmjow's arm. Not heal, it's not heal. Even Ukiura said, healing is not the correct term to use here. It's like rejection or regression or something like that. Literally reversing the flow of time in a specific place. And we saw that exemplified when she used that to heal Grimmjow's arm, to literally bring it back into existence when it wasn't there, okay? So then, though, Ukiura stabbed Ichigo, and Orihime wasn't able to reject that ability, okay? Now, you could always come back to the whole idea of, you know, the bigger Ryatsu wins in Bleach. Like, that's how it always goes. You know, like when Soifone tried to use her Nigeki Katetsu ability against Aizen, and Aizen's like, too bad. bad. It's a really cool ability, but I have more Reiatsu with you, so than you, so I can just cancel it out. It doesn't work. It doesn't matter what ability you have. Whoever has the higher Reiatsu works. So in that situation, you could say, all right, Ukiura stabbed Ichigo, left his residual Reiatsu in the wound. So even though Orihime does have an ability that could possibly circumvent that and heal Ichigo's chest wound, she still could not in that instance because Ukiura's Reiatsu was stronger than hers. And also she was wavering at that point because a lot of times when Orihime's healing somebody, she might question like, am I able to heal this? Can I reject it back to the way it was? Am I going to be able to do this? So she doubts herself and it doesn't work, okay? Or it doesn't work as well, you know? Same thing that happened with Ichigo's Bankai at the end of the story where she could not, you know, reject it. Then again, she was also very injured in that fight, so maybe that was the reason why she couldn't go ahead of it. You know, she was losing a lot of blood at that point, right? Okay, so, you know, that's the Soten Kishun ability, which, you know, has a lot of implications on exactly what it is fully capable of. A lot of times in the story, it does seem that Kubo is just playing fast and loose with it. Like, oh, here it is, you know, completely bringing back a severed arm. Here it is not working at all. Here it is doing something else really cool. Here it is not working at all here. But I think it is 100% tied to Orihime's, you know, her emotional state. And that's the big deal. The Santen Keshun ability, their shielding abilities, once again, I think that one can be encumbered just if she's not completely confident that the shield can hold. So if she uses her shield and she's not 100% certain that that shield can hold, they're like, oh man, this opponent's really strong. I hope my shield doesn't break. That's when the shield breaks, right? So it could be something like that. And we already talked about the Koten Zashun, the ability that Tsubaki has that, you know, is completely tied to her fighting spirit. Now, here's the thing about the Shun Shun Rika that I find very disappointing in this story that I think Kubo could have done a bunch of stuff with, and he just didn't, okay? For whatever reason. I mean, I'm not blaming the guy or anything. I'm just saying that I'm going to throw some scenarios at you, and, you know, they'd be pretty cool if they were actually in the story, okay? So, Orihime, very much like a Shinigami, has a very interesting power in that she can actually communicate with said power. A Shinigami can take out their Zanpakuto and use the Jinzen, that sword meditation stance, in order to actually verbally, you know, like emotionally communicate with their Zanpakuto spirits. And that's a really cool power because you get to learn about, you know, yourself along the way. It's kind of like a psychological kind of thing where you're talking to a different version of yourself in a mirror, okay? Well, Orihime has that too. In fact, Orihime has that even more effectively because it's 6 fragments of her personality divided up into 6 different beings. So it just would be so cool if she had like regular conversations with her Shun Shun Rika. She can learn more about herself in the process, which therefore would make her stronger along the way. She could talk to, let's say if Hinagiku really does represent like the knowledge or intelligence or more rational part of Orihime's mind, she could talk to him whenever she had a question that pertained to more like logical circumstances, getting into battles, kind of that kind of stuff, right? If she wanted to, like, worry about, like, if she was worried about her being maybe too shy or reserved and she wanted to be more confident, maybe she could speak to Shuno, or she could, on the opposite end, speak to Ayame, because Ayame is more of, like, the meek shyness of her. Talk about each member of the Shun Shun Rika that represent herself, and she learns more about herself as it goes, right? You know, who needs a therapist when you have 6 fairies that are basically you, right? Okay? And then Tsubaki, you know, that would be a thing for her to actually sit down and have a conversation with Tsubaki, discussing like what it means to get into a fight, what it means to have fighting spirit, what it means to really protect those that you care about. And it's implied that she does communicate with them and she learns more about her powers because by the time the Fullbring arc rolls around, she does actually have a new ability, and it's only used once in the entire story. But it's called Shiten Koshun, the Shield of the 4 Heavens Resistance. That's the ability where she combines the Santen Keshun, the 3 shield barrier, with Tsubaki in the center. So you're adding a 4th flower to the ability. So when Ginjo tried to attack her, he hits the shield. And he's like, oh, do you think your shield's going to be able to stop me? But then Tsubaki in the center works as a shockwave. So it's like an exploding shield. So not only does it block an attack, the shockwave knocks it back, okay? So that was really really cool how we're combining the Shun Shun Rika, implying that she has spoken to Tsubaki and Hinagiku, Baigon, and Lily and learned about this new combination. Also, it might be that some of the 6 flowers don't get along working in tandem with each other, so they have to work on the relationships, kind of like in a Fire Emblem game, in order to get their stats and their connections together. Oh man, are you gonna ship Tsubaki with Lily? I think so on this playthrough. Maybe it's something like that. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But I feel like it would have been so cool if Orihime had more conversations with them in the canon of the manga when she was going through some troubling times. We see them in the Soul Society arc after Tsubaki gets injured. There's a moment, I think there's a few filler scenes in the anime during that arc where they just pop out for no reason. And then so there was the scene where Tsubaki got hit by Jidambo's brother, Jirobo Ikazaka, and I have Shuno and Ayame healing him, and they're like, oh, it takes a little bit more of a talent to heal one of our own, but he'll be back up in action soon. And so Tsubaki's there, and he's like, don't worry, I'll be back, don't worry about it, right? So we have a little bit of character development there, but after the Soul Society arc, I don't think we see the individual fairies anymore. I mean, they're always there, technically, whenever Orihime uses any ability, but we never see them talking to her or her talking to them. And that's kind of a problem, because you could imagine, like, how about that time that Ukiura basically gave Orihime the ultimatum to leave the living world and go to Huecamundo, and if she doesn't, then all of her friends die? That might have maybe been an interesting, time to have a conversation with, like, the powers that represent your soul and maybe what they thought about it, and have just an introspection in that. That would have been really cool. The goodbye Halcyon Days moment. How about all those days that she was locked in the palace in Las Noches, in Aizen's palace, and, she was there all by herself. I can imagine her doing that because she still was allowed her power, because that was the whole reason that Aizen wanted her. So I guess you could say Aizen also wanted her because he knew that eventually Ichigo and the others would go into Huecamundo and divide their power, divide their fighting strength. I guess you could say that too. But still a very interesting power that's very fascinating, right? So you can imagine, I mean, she probably did do it, the idea, like, she sat alone in her, room, but she's like, oh, you're never really alone, Orihime, because you have all of us. And maybe because Orihime was feeling very, like, depressed and dejected, maybe the fairies' personalities would represent that in kind, but you'd be able to have a conversation with them and learn more about how she's feeling in that moment and maybe overcome it, okay? And then there's the whole thing with Ukiura, where a lot of people ship Orihime with Ukiura, so that would be interesting, right? Like, one of the fairies, like, Lily comes out. Lily seems to be the one that's the most expressive. So, like, Lily comes out and she's like, wow, that Ukiura guy is really scary, but he's kind of hot, right? And Orihime's like, yeah, kind of. He's like, yeah, kind of. Maybe, I don't know. If things don't work out with Ichigo and I have to stay here for the rest of my life, I guess Ukiura would be okay. He'd be like having a vampire boyfriend. That would be all right. Okay. So, like, more moments like that would be really cool. And that moment during the Fullbring arc, when she combined the 3 with Tsubaki, leads to the idea of, like, what other combinations could you do? If you combined, for example, the shield ability of the Santen Keshun with the rejection ability of the Soten Kishun, could you have a new ability that way? Where it's like a shield that, like, maybe when your enemy attacks you, they, like, jump back to where they originated. Like, let's say somebody takes out a gun and fires at Orihime. She uses this ability with the shield and the Soten Kishun, and the bullets hit the shield, and then, like time reverses, and then, like, the bullets are back in the chamber of the gun. Like, whoa, what the hell just happened? Like, that would be a really cool ability to have. What if you combine the Soten Kishun healing ability with the Koten Zanshun Tsubaki slicing ability? Maybe you could slice through time and space and reality, I don't know, and, like, age someone when they get hit, or, like, regress them or something like that so they couldn't fight anymore, right? Maybe you could do something like that. What if you combined, I'm just throwing it out there, all 6 of them together? Because that seems to be, like, the final, like, if there's going to be an ability with 6 different powers, and they're like, oh, this power is with 3, this one's with 2, and this one was 1, but if you can add 4, and you can have one that's with 5, you would assume the ultimate technique here, after Orihime mastered the Shun Shun Rika, would be all 6 flowers together using one giant final attack. That seems like something that might have been in a Bleach video game at some point. I've only ever played 2 Bleach video games, Shattered Blade on the Wii, which is just a wag fest. It's like basically do this and you can win the game, and Dark Souls, which I still play from time to time. That's on the original DS, but that's a really good one. I also have Third Phantom somewhere that a fan sent me, but yeah, that seems like a video game only attack, like all 6 flowers go, right? And that's it. But no, seriously, like what would that ability do? Because it has shielding capabilities, regression capabilities, and attacking offensive slicing capabilities all into one, right? And I mean, look, I'm not going to say that a character's status is all about like their fighting ability, to just simply say Orihime's not in a lot of fights in the story, therefore her character sucks, which is maybe something I possibly might have said before. That's not fair. If I did say that, that's not fair, okay, because she doesn't like to fight. You know, just because she's not in a lot of fights doesn't mean that she's not an interesting character, okay? And as I'm going back and rereading early Bleach, she is a very fascinating character. I just wish that maybe something more with her was focused on throughout the story, because even during the Huecamundo arc, which like the whole point of that was going to rescue her, she doesn't really have a lot of moments, you know? Like she has moments where she's just very dejected and sad, but that's pretty much it. There's the moment when, you know, Ukiura is there. It's like, what is a heart? And that's, like, honestly, I would say that's a moment more for Ukiura than Orihime. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think there was, like, a lot more stuff with Orihime in the story. I think Kubo could have done more, though, with her character. But, yeah, that's the video. I think I've went on for long enough. Just let me know what you think about Orihime's ability, because the Shun Shun Rika, man, it's a pretty odd power. Maybe it is the power of the Soul King itself made manifest. Who knows? Who cares? I will say, like, because literally, like, the Japanese names, like, 3 Sacred Links Shield, Twin Sacred Realm Return, Solitary Sacred Cutting Shield, Shield of 4 Heavens Resistance, Sacred, Sanctuary, Heaven. They appear quite a bit, so, you know, maybe Orihime is the Soul King or the Soul Queen. I don't really know. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. This will be Tekking, and Barry, and Ichigo, and Rukia hanging out back there, signing out. Later, everyone. Thanks also to whoever gave me these hairpins. It's been so long ago, I don't remember your name, but thank you. Finally able to use them.